found a severed hand by the riverbank. It's taken me months to write this down. Every time I think about that weekend, my stomach knots like I swallowed barbed wire. But I need to say it out loud, maybe just so someone else knows. Maybe to convince myself it was real. Last August, me and 3 friends, Nate, Mel and Ryan, went camping in the Cascade Mountains. We weren't exactly experts, but Ryan had this smug-ass REI obsession and insisted he knew what he was doing. He had the gear, Yeti coolers, a Coleman stove, tents that looked like they cost more than my car. Mel and I joked that we were going to the woods with a suburban Bear Grylls. We picked this secluded spot Ryan found on some backcountry blog. No service, no other cars for miles, just thick trees, a cold, fast river, and the kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like it's waiting. First night was chill. We drank, grilled sausages, and argued over which actor was the best Batman. Mel rolled her eyes and kept quoting horror movies whenever a twig snapped. We laughed it off, but I caught her checking over her shoulder more than once. Second night, things started getting weird. When we woke up, Ryan's boots were gone. Not misplaced, gone. He swore he left them right outside his tent. We joked that a raccoon had a shoe fetish, but Nate's face changed when he noticed something. Just beyond the tree line, a single muddy footprint. Barefoot. No tread, no sock imprint, just a human foot, pressed deep into the dirt, toes spread wide. We stood there staring, too quiet, too long. Then Ryan forced a laugh, said it was probably his. Only he didn't walk barefoot. Ever. We moved on, hiked a few miles upriver that day. The air smelled like pine and rain, and for a while we forgot about the footprint. Until we got back. Mel's backpack was unzipped. Nothing taken. Just messed with. Her tampons were scattered, her journal was open, flipped to a page she hadn't written on. Her phone was still there, but her charger cord was gone. That night, no one drank. No one laughed. We sat by the fire, barely talking, pretending everything was fine. But every sound in the woods had teeth. We heard twigs snapping again, closer than before. At one point, I thought I saw movement between the trees, a flash of something pale. Nate volunteered to take first watch. He always acted tough, tattoos, army surplus gear, all that. But when I woke up around 3 a.m, he was gone. I found his flashlight on the ground, still on, pointed at the river. His camping knife was stabbed into a tree way up high, out of reach like it had been thrown there. We searched and screamed for hours. Mel was shaking, crying, begging to leave. But Ryan said we couldn't go until first light. Too dangerous to hike the trail blind. Right before dawn, we found something by the riverbank. A hand. Not a glove. Not a bone. A severed human hand, lying palm up in the wet moss. Fingers bent like it had been trying to grab something. Still pink. Still fresh. Mel screamed so loud it echoed off the trees. We ran. We didn't pack. We didn't look back. Just bolted through the woods with nothing but Ryan's emergency flashlight and pure blood-freezing panic. But that wasn't the worst part. When we got to the trailhead, Ryan stopped, dead still. "What?" I asked, panting. He pointed to our car. There was a piece of paper under the wiper, folded, soaked with dew. I opened it. It said, "You left him behind." I didn't know my hands could shake that bad. The note felt like it weighed 50 pounds. I didn't even process the words at first. I just stared, like maybe they'd rearrange into something less horrifying. Ryan snatched it from me, read it, and didn't say a word. Just slowly sat down on the hood of his Subaru, staring into space. Mel, still crying, kept saying over and over, "What does that mean? What does that mean?" But I think deep down we all knew. It meant Nate was still alive when we ran. We left him. I still hear that sentence sometimes. When I try to sleep. When I brush my teeth. When I'm doing normal shit. You left him behind. We wanted to drive straight to the ranger station, but the tires, they were flat. All 4 of them. Not slashed, unscrewed. Every valve cap gone. The lug nuts on 2 wheels were loose. Ryan looked like he was about to be sick. "Someone was right here," he muttered. "Right by us while we were out there." No one had service. Mel tried walking a few yards down the trail, holding her phone up like it was some kind of offering, whispering, "Please, please." Nothing. Just the spinning wheel of no signal. We were stuck, with no food, barely any water, and whatever was out there watching us. Mel broke down again, sat on the dirt with her arms wrapped around her knees, rocking like a child. We should have grabbed his knife. We should have fucking stayed. Ryan lost it. And done what? Got picked off one by one? You think Nate wanted us to stay? He left that knife in the tree to warn us, Mel. They screamed at each other until their voices cracked. I didn't join in. I couldn't. I just kept looking at the woods behind us. I swear, I felt it. The gaze. Like a weight on the back of your skull, not just someone watching, someone close. That night was the worst. We locked ourselves in the car. Not that it would have done much. We were in the middle of nowhere with a flat-out fucked vehicle and a psychopath apparently comfortable enough to take their time unscrewing lug nuts. We kept a flashlight on, propped up between the front seats. The batteries were low, flickering like a candle in wind. Mel was curled up in the back, sobbing quietly. Ryan was clutching the steering wheel like it was a lifeline. I didn't sleep. I just watched the trees through the windshield. The shadows moved. I know they did. Not from wind, not from animals, from footsteps. Deliberate, heavy, unhurried. At one point I saw something between 2 trees. Not a face. Not really. Just this. Suggestion of one. Like it wasn't peeking out, it was just there, as if it belonged in that darkness. At 3:27 a.m, the flashlight died. The silence after that was suffocating. Somewhere deep in the trees we heard a voice. A human voice. It was singing. I shit you not, someone out there was humming this soft, broken little lullaby. Off-key. Like they didn't remember the tune but were trying to. Mel woke up, whispered, "Do you hear that?" Ryan and I both nodded, frozen, and then we heard footsteps. Not heavy, just deliberate, measured, crunching twigs and leaves as if to announce themselves, as if whoever it was wanted us to know they were there. Ryan slowly reached down and pulled out the emergency flare from the glove box. It was the only thing we had. When he cracked it, the red light filled the car like blood. We didn't see anything outside, but there was a sound behind us. Knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks, right on the rear windshield. We all screamed. Ryan turned and pointed the flare at the back, but there was nothing there, just our own terrified reflections. Then Mel pointed at the fogged-up glass. There was a handprint, small, almost childlike, pressed into the condensation from the outside. We bailed, sprinted into the woods like lunatics, red light bobbing in Ryan's hand. We didn't think. We didn't plan. We just ran. Somewhere along the way we got separated. Mel tripped and I went back for her. When I turned around, Ryan was gone. Gone. No sound, no scream, no rustle of branches, just gone. We never found him. But we did find something else. Another piece of paper tacked to a tree with a rusty nail. It read, "Don't forget what you heard." Mel and I just stared at it, too scared to cry anymore. It took us hours to find a road. A maintenance truck eventually picked us up. The driver said nothing the whole ride down, just kept glancing at us like we were cracked. The cops searched, found our car, found the knife in the tree. Never found Nate. Never found Ryan. Never found the hand either. They said we were probably pranked, called it a trauma-induced exaggeration. But Mel's in therapy now. I drink too much. And sometimes I wake up to knocking on my window. 3 knocks. They let us go after 72 hours. No arrests, no real questions, just forms, bland sympathy, and that same dead-eyed nod every time we said something that sounded too weird. I could see it in their faces. They didn't believe us. We were just another backwoods campfire tale. Drunk kids, drug trip, group hysteria. But here's the thing. I wish it was drugs. I wish I hallucinated everything. I didn't. I stayed with Mel for 2 days after that. Her apartment in Bellingham was tiny, bare walls, barely any furniture. But it was safe. Or at least it felt safe. We didn't talk much. She barely left the couch, just curled up in a blanket, flinching at every noise. The sound of her neighbour's dog barking made her cry. The mail slot clicking sent her into a full-on panic. I didn't do much better. I kept checking the locks, all of them, over and over until my fingers were raw from turning the deadbolts. I couldn't sleep unless every light was on. Even then, I never made it through the night without waking up in a sweat. It was the 3rd night that it started again. I was lying on the couch, half asleep, when I heard footsteps inside the apartment. At first, I thought it was Mel, but the pacing was slow, too slow, like whoever it was trying to feel the floor with every step. I sat up. No one was there. The hallway was empty. The bathroom door was open. Mel's bedroom door was shut. I got up, heart hammering, and tiptoed down the hallway. I could still hear the footsteps, soft, dragging sounds like socks over hardwood. But now they were behind me. I spun around. Nothing. The light above the kitchen flickered. That's when I saw the paper, folded, sitting on the counter like someone had just placed it there. Crisp edges, no dust, too fresh. I didn't want to touch it, but I had to. I unfolded it with shaking fingers. It said, "You were supposed to stay." I backed away, hit the fridge, and gasped out loud. Mel's door creaked open behind me. I turned. She was standing there, pale, shaking, holding a kitchen knife. "You saw him too, didn't you?" she whispered. I couldn't answer. I just nodded. "He watches me," she said, "from the fire escape every night. He just stands there. Sometimes he hums." My knees went weak. I had to sit. Why the fuck is this happening? She didn't respond. That night, we didn't sleep. We sat on the floor in her bedroom, lights on, curtains drawn, knife between us, just waiting. At 3:09 a.m., something tapped the window. Not knocking, not banging, just tapping. Light. Fingertips, maybe. Mel covered her ears. I looked, heart in my throat. There was a shadow. Tall, thin. A shape more than a person. Just there. Behind the curtain. Then it disappeared. We moved out the next morning. Packed everything we could in 3 hours and left. We didn't talk much after that. Mel went to stay with her sister in Oregon. I went back home to Yakima. Thought maybe distance would help. It didn't. The notes followed me. One was tucked under my windshield at work. Another was slid into my locker at the gym. One, God help me, was waiting inside my bathroom mirror, written in the steam like someone had stood there, breathing on the glass, and waited for me to notice. That one said, "You took the wrong way out." I haven't told anyone. Who would believe me? But it's not just the notes. It's the pictures too. They started showing up on my phone. Not sent. Not in my camera roll. Just there when I'd open the gallery. Blurry photos of trees, my old tent, Nate's boot, a flashlight on the ground, and one of me, asleep, in my bed, shot from the doorway. I haven't slept in that apartment since. But the worst part, the part I can't explain, is what showed up in the mail last week. No return address, just a padded envelope. Inside, a GoPro, covered in dirt, mud caked in its screen cracked. But it worked. I charged it. I shouldn't have. The footage was only a few seconds long. It's shaky. Looks like it was strapped to someone's chest. The timestamp says it was recorded the night Nate disappeared. It shows a flashlight, bobbing in the dark. Then it turns, and I see us. Me, Ryan, Mel, running, panicked, sprinting away from the riverbank, past the tent, and the camera. It doesn't follow. It stays behind, slowly turning to face the river. There's someone standing there, naked, covered in mud, smiling, and then the screen goes black. That's when I knew. Nate didn't die that night. He joined them. I watched that footage over and over until the battery died. Every time I paused it at the exact frame, just before the screen goes dark, right when the figure by the river lifts its head. It wasn't a smile. Not really. It was more like a grimace stretched into a grin. Lips cracked, eyes wide open, like the face didn't know how to be human anymore. But the eyes. I know those eyes. That was Nate. Or what used to be him. I've tried to explain it 100 different ways. Trauma, hallucinations, some messed up trick. but no matter how many times I run it back, those eyes are his. Mel didn't answer when I called. I left 4 voicemails. On the 5th call, it rang once, then went straight to static. Not silence, static. Like the phone had picked up, but no one was talking. Just a hiss. A long, low hiss that almost sounded like breathing if you listened too long. I hung up. The next morning, I drove to Oregon. Her sister's place was this little house outside Eugene. Quiet. Too quiet. I parked across the street and just watched. For hours. Nothing moved inside. The yard was overgrown, mail piled up by the door. One of those yellow grocery flyers flapped in the breeze, stuck to the front steps. No lights. No sound. Around noon, I finally walked up and knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Harder. Still nothing. I was about to walk away when I noticed something scratched into the wooden frame of the door, just beneath the peephole. 3 words. She saw him. Not carved deep, just barely into the surface, like someone had done it fast. Desperate. I backed away, heart pounding, and as I turned to leave, I noticed the camera, mounted in the tree across the street. One of those outdoor wildlife cams. I wouldn't have even seen it if the sun hadn't glinted off the lens. It was pointed straight at the front door. I don't know what made me do it, curiosity, fear, instinct, but I crossed the road, climbed up, and yanked it down. Back at the motel that night, I plugged it into my laptop. It had one video, just one, dated 2 nights before I arrived. The footage is grainy, infrared, black and white. First, nothing, then movement. Mel steps out onto the porch in a hoodie, clutching a blanket. She sits down on the steps, pulls the blanket tight, looks around, and then she says it, clear as day, even with the crackling audio. I know you're out there. She waits, looks up at the tree, at the camera, and then whispers, I saw your face. That's when something steps into frame behind her. I paused the video. I had to. Because that thing, it wasn't Nate anymore. Not really. Same height, same build, but hunched. Hair matted to its scalp. Naked except for what looked like strips of someone's clothes tied around its waist. Its skin was slick with something, mud, blood. It crouched beside her, no sound. Mel didn't move. She just whispered something else I couldn't make out. Then the video cut. End of file. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, waiting for something, anything, to make it make sense. Then my phone buzzed. No caller ID. Just one word on the screen. Run. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even stay. I drove. I didn't care where. I just needed to move. Every time I looked in the rear view, I expected to see someone standing in the road behind me. That was 3 nights ago. Now I'm in a motel outside Spokane. Different one. No neighbors. No trees nearby. Every light's on. Every curtain's drawn. My backpack's by the door with everything I need to go at a moment's notice. But that won't help. Because this morning, I found something under my pillow. It wasn't a note. It was a tooth. Human. Still bloody. And underneath it was a message written on the back of a Walmart receipt. He wants you to come back." The phone rang as I was reading it. Blocked number. I picked up. This time I heard the lullaby. The same one from the woods. Off-key, raspy. Like whoever was singing had forgotten the words halfway through but kept humming anyway. I hung up, pulled the battery out, smashed the phone against the wall. It didn't matter, because outside the window, pressed against the glass, was a handprint. Not from fingers, from teeth. An imprint of a mouth, wide open, smiling. Blood smeared across the pane in a curve. He's here. He never left the woods. He just brought the woods with him. I drove until the gas gauge was blinking red. Some 2-lane road in the middle of nowhere. The kind of road that feels like it was built for escaping something, not getting to somewhere. No music, no GPS. Just the low drone of the engine and the growing certainty that it didn't matter where I went, he'd follow. When I finally stopped, it was because I saw the river again. Not the same one, I don't think. But it looked like it. And in that moment, that was enough to break me. I parked on the shoulder and stumbled out, knees weak. I followed the sound of water crashing over rocks in the dark and dropped to the ground beside it. I don't remember crying, but I must have. My face was wet. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't light a cigarette. I just sat there, in the dirt, trying not to completely lose my mind. That's when I heard a voice behind me, not a whisper, not humming, just a voice. "Did you bring him back?" I spun around so fast I fell into the mud. There was a man standing at the edge of the trees, middle-aged, maybe older, dirty overalls, skin like leather. His eyes didn't match, one blue, one grey and cloudy like a dead fish. He was barefoot, holding something in his hand. A rabbit? A bundle of cloth? I couldn't tell. I stammered something, I don't even know what. He took a step forward. I backed away. "You seen him," the man said, tilting his head. "You let him in." I don't know what you're talking about," I managed to say. He grinned, mouth full of broken yellow teeth. They always say that, but he always knows. He crouched down and placed whatever he was holding on the ground. It was a hand, not severed, not bloody, preserved, like it had been mummified, wrapped in plastic, fingers curled inwards like it had died trying to hold on to something. The man stood back up. "Leave this by water," he said, "before the sun, or he'll take the rest." Then he turned and walked back into the woods, just like that, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I didn't move for 10 minutes, maybe more, just stared at that thing on the ground, heart beating so fast I thought I was going to pass out. But I did it. I picked it up. God help me, I picked it up and laid it on a flat stone by the river. I don't know why. I didn't know what else to do. When I turned around, the man was gone. But there was something else in his place. A new note, taped to the hood of my car. It was in Ryan's handwriting. I know because he always made his lowercase t's without the cross. It said, "He showed me what's underneath." There was a Polaroid with it, fuzzy, dark, water-streaked. It showed something hanging from a tree, a shape, a person, upside down, arms spread, head tilted to the side. Their face had been peeled off, just smooth pink skin, like someone had tried to carve the emotion out of them. I screamed, out loud, on the side of that empty road with no cars, no lights, no nothing. And then my phone, my destroyed phone, rang from the passenger seat. I hadn't even brought it with me. I left it in pieces at the last motel. But there it was, good as new, lit up. Unknown number. I didn't answer. I just stared at it until it stopped ringing. Then it vibrated. New voicemail. I don't know why I listened to it. I should have deleted it, burned it, crushed the phone under my boot. But I pressed play, and I heard my own voice, crying, begging, saying things I've never said. Don't take them, please. I'll go back. I'll go back. I'll go back. The call ended with a distant, wet chuckle. That night I slept in the car with the lights on. I kept the rabbit hand thing outside like the man said, and at some point near dawn I woke up to tapping on the glass. Not hard, just fingernail tapping. 1, 2, 3. I was too scared to move, too scared to look. When I finally did, there was no one there, but someone had carved something into the hood of my car. Deep, scratched metal, 3 words, go back alone. I think I have to. But before I do, there's something about driving toward your own death that makes the world seem clearer. I saw everything on that drive back. The way the light flickered through the trees like warning signals. The vultures circling over an empty field. A dead deer by the roadside with its eyes plucked out and legs bent wrong, like it was praying when it died. The Cascade trailhead hadn't changed. Still remote, still quiet, still waiting. I left the car behind. No note this time, no warnings, just silence. And the path. Every step felt like walking into a grave. My breath caught in my throat, my legs wanted to turn around, but my body didn't listen, not anymore. I think some part of me had already agreed to this, long ago, when we ran that night and left Nate behind. It took hours to get to the river. The air got colder the closer I got. No bird song, no wind, just that constant, low humming in the back of my skull, like someone whispering just out of earshot. I crossed the same rocks we did that night, stepped into the same patch of moss where we found the hand, and there, waiting for me, was the tent. Not ours, different, old, covered in mildew, torn at the seams, but something about it felt used, recent. There was smoke rising from the fire pit, fresh, still curling. I should have turned around, but I unzipped the flap, and there he was, Nate, or what was left of him. He sat cross-legged on a bed of pine needles, naked, skin grey with grime, eyes wide and full of something not human. His mouth was moving, muttering something under his breath, again and again. At first I couldn't understand it. Then it clicked. He brought me back. He brought me back. He brought me back. I whispered his name. He stopped, lifted his head, smiled, and then he laughed. Low, broken, like it hurt. You finally listened, he said. His voice wasn't right, too flat, too rehearsed, like someone pretending to be Nate. Who is he? I asked. Nate, or the thing that wore Nate, tilted his head. Not who, he said. Where? He pointed to the forest behind me. I turned, and there were others. Dozens. Men, women, kids, all pale, all filthy, standing between the trees, watching, smiling, and behind them, something huge, tall as the trees, draped in bark and moss, its face a hollow where a face should be, black, endless, but you could feel it seeing you. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Nate stood, walked past me, and whispered, "You left us behind." Then he vanished into the trees. One by one, they followed. The others, the faceless crowd, no sound, just vanished, until only the thing remained. And it spoke, not with words, with memory. I felt it in my head, the fear, the guilt, that moment I ran and didn't look back, the way Nate screamed when we didn't come for him. I heard it again, felt it, lived it, over and over, until I collapsed. I woke up alone. Next to the river, no tent, no footprints, just a note pinned to my chest with a thorn. "You can go now," and a final line, "but you'll bring more." I hiked out in silence, made it back to the car, drove home, and now I'm here, writing this, because I can't scream it. I can't tell anyone. They wouldn't believe me. But you're reading this, aren't you? You believe me, and maybe that's enough. Because last night I woke up to find another note beside my bed. It said, "Thank you," and my front door was open. The thing we buried came back. I shouldn't be writing this. Not because it's hard to talk about, though God it is, but because I promised I'd never tell. I promised them. And I kept that promise for almost 5 years. But something changed. I heard something last night. I think they're back. Anyway, if you're reading this, I'm not trying to scare you. I just need to get it out before I go completely insane. It started in July 2020, right when COVID restrictions were easing up and people were desperate to get outside. My friends James, Riley and I, we planned a week-long backpacking trip through the Wind River Range, Wyoming. Not the tourist-heavy side, we were going deep, like miles from cell service, no marked trails, gotta bring your own map deep. We wanted quiet, no rangers, no families with screaming kids, just alpine air, glaciers, and the kind of stillness you only get when you're far, far away. We brought gear from REI, tents from Costco, Yeti coolers, Mountain House freeze-dried meals, and a bear canister. The usual. James even brought his old Bushnell binoculars, like we were going to spot elk or something. It was supposed to be relaxing. It wasn't. The first weird thing happened on the second night. Riley was the first one to notice. "Hey, did either of you piss near the tent?" he asked when we got back from collecting water. "No," I said. "Why?" "There's this smell," he said, crouching by the edge of our camp, like old piss and wet dog. James just laughed. "Maybe it's a raccoon." "There are no raccoons up here," Riley said flatly. "Not at this elevation." We shrugged it off, cooked some instant ramen, cracked a couple of warm beers we'd packed up for the first few days, tried to enjoy the view. But that night I woke up to something moving outside the tent. Not walking, not even stomping, just moving, like dragging, slow and deliberate. You know how twigs snap under something heavy? That's what it sounded like, but spread out, like something crawling, something big. I stayed still, held my breath. I didn't wake the others. I wanted to tell myself it was wind or maybe a bear, but deep down I knew it wasn't. Next morning, Riley was already up, staring at something by the fire pit. "What the hell?" he mumbled when I stepped out. There were footprints, not boot prints. Bare feet. Bare human feet. Only they weren't ours. They were too wide, with freakishly long toes and deep, like the person had weight. A lot of it. We followed the tracks around the camp. They circled us. They came close. Too close. "Someone was watching us," Riley whispered. "They walked around us all night." James tried to laugh it off. "Maybe it's just a mountain man, some off-grid nutcase." But his voice cracked when he said it. That night we barely slept. We took turns keeping watch. At 3 a.m. I saw something. Someone, about 20 feet away from the tent. Just standing there, not moving. A silhouette against the moonlight. I blinked. They were gone. I woke the guys. James didn't believe me. Riley didn't say a word. We wanted to leave the next morning, pack up and hike out. But our map was gone. Not misplaced. Gone. Like someone came into the tent and took it. Just the map. Not our phones, not our money, not our food, just the one thing we needed to find our way out. And that's when Riley said it. The line I can't stop replaying in my head. They don't want us to leave. We didn't talk much that morning. There's something about losing your map in the middle of the Wyoming backcountry that makes you go quiet. It's not just fear, it's shame. Like we were supposed to be ready for this, supposed to be prepared. But now the map was gone, and with it, the illusion of control. James kept pacing, rubbing his jaw. Riley sat on a log, staring at the dirt like it was going to tell him something. Me? I pretended to look busy, checking the bear can, refilling our hydration bladders, fiddling with the straps on my pack. But my hands were shaking the whole time. Every now and then I looked up at the tree line, expecting to see, I don't know, him, because I know I saw someone. And I think they came into our tent while we were sleeping. We made a plan, if you could even call it that. James still had GPS on his Garmin watch, though it was spotty. He said if we kept heading west, we'd eventually hit one of the creeks that connected to the Green River. Worst case, we follow the water. So we moved. But something was wrong with Riley. He kept muttering under his breath. They don't want us to leave. They don't want us to leave. Over and over. At first, we told him to shut up. James even snapped at him. "You're not helping, dude." But then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Riley's ankle was wrapped in paracord. Tight. Almost too tight. There was bruising, like he'd been tied up. But none of us had done it. And he didn't remember how it got there. Probably snagged it on something, James said weakly, but his voice was flat, empty, like he didn't believe himself. Riley didn't talk after that. He just walked with this stiff, limping shuffle, staring at the trees like they were watching him, like they were breathing. Around noon, we stopped by a glacial stream to refill our water bottles. I was crouching by the edge when I saw it, floating just beneath the surface. A Ziploc bag. I pulled it out. Inside was a Polaroid photo. One of those old ones with faded colours and a timestamp. It showed a man, about our age, sitting by a tent that looked eerily similar to ours. Only this one was torn open, like something had slashed it from the outside. There was a second figure behind him, blurry, just enough out of frame that you couldn't make it out. But I swear to God it was the same shape I'd seen by the tent that night. James wanted to throw the photo out, said it was probably trash. Someone dropped it. We're psyching ourselves out. But when I flipped the photo over, there was something scrawled in shaky handwriting. Run while you still can. We didn't eat that day. We didn't talk. We just hiked. It got colder the deeper we went into the forest, which didn't make sense. The weather forecast had said it'd be warm, summer, but I could see my breath. We found another campsite near a ridge just before dark. At first we were relieved, proof that someone else had been here. But then we saw the fire pit. It was full of bones, not like chicken wings or steak leftovers. I'm talking long bones, ribs, teeth small enough to be from a dog or a kid. There was charred fabric too, a piece of a hoodie burned black with a red Nike swoosh. And worst of all, a notebook, half burned, pages soaked and torn. James picked it up. Most of it was unreadable, but one sentence stuck out, scribbled in huge angry letters. They make you bury it, but it comes back. We didn't sleep that night. No one even suggested setting up the tent. We just sat with our backs to each other, knives in hand, listening. That's when the laughing started. Not close, but not far enough. It echoed from the ridge, high-pitched, like someone pretending to laugh, mocking. Riley started crying. James yelled into the woods, "Show yourself, you freak!" No answer, just more laughing. Then footsteps, dozens of them, all around us, crunching leaves, slow, intentional. We shined our headlamps into the woods. Nothing. But when we turned around, Riley was gone. No sound, no struggle, just gone. And in his place, lying in the dirt, was the Ziploc bag again. Same photo. Only now there were 3 people in the background. I don't even remember standing up. I think my body just moved on its own. I was yelling Riley's name, over and over, loud enough to make my throat roar. James grabbed my jacket, pulled me down, whispered, "Shut up, shut the fuck up." "But I know, but listen." That's when we both heard it. Crunch. One step. Not 20 feet from us. Then another, closer. James and I turned our lights toward the sound. The trees were thick and cast weird shadows, even with our beams sweeping through them. But something moved. Fast. Just beyond reach. Low to the ground, then upright. Too fast for a person. "I saw something," James hissed. "No shit." We started backing away. I looked down at the Ziploc bag in my hand. Same photo, same message. But something was different. The middle guy, the new one that hadn't been there before, he had Riley's jacket. The blue Arc'teryx one he never took off. I dropped the bag like it was burning. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Okay," James said, breath catching in his throat. "We're leaving. Now. Forget the creek. We go east, sunrise. We walk until we hit something." We didn't even pack up. Just ran. Literally ran. Branches slapping us, rocks twisting our ankles. My lungs felt like they were being peeled open, but I kept going. The forest got weirder the farther we moved. Less animal sounds, no bugs, no birds, just wind, whispering like voices you couldn't quite make out, like someone talking just behind you, too soft to understand but loud enough to know you're not alone. James stopped suddenly. I nearly crashed into him. "What the hell?" He pointed. There in the trees ahead of us was a cabin. Wooden, small, half collapsed on one side. Looked like it had been built 100 years ago and forgotten. We should have run. I know that now. But at the time, a shelter felt like a miracle. We approached carefully. The door wasn't locked, just hanging on rusted hinges. Inside it smelled like rot and mold. Animal shit. Something else. James found a lantern and turned it on. Weak orange glow filled the room. The cabin was full of junk. Old camping gear, torn sleeping bags, waterlogged books, broken flashlights, all scattered like someone left in a hurry, or didn't leave at all. But what froze me was the wall, covered in photos, Polaroids, hundreds of them, all different people. Couples, solo hikers, big groups, but all with the same backdrop. Forest, tents, fire pits. Some were smiling. Most looked startled, like the photo had been taken without them knowing. In every photo, somewhere in the background, there was a man. Same height, same silhouette. Always partially hidden, behind a tree, peeking from a tent flap, crouching just outside the light. "I'm going to be sick," James muttered. I walked to the far end where a metal box sat on a shelf. Dusty, locked with a cheap padlock. James smashed it open with a rock. Inside were more Polaroids. The top one, us, the three of us sitting around the campfire on night one. I dropped it and stumbled backward. No, James picked up another one. Oh my God. It was him, alone, taken from behind. He was pissing near a tree just out of view of the campsite. There's no way we didn't see someone taking these. "There's a window," I whispered. He turned to look. At the back of the cabin was a small rectangular hole, not glass, just wood frame. And nailed around it, carved into the wall, were scratches, deep gouges, like someone had been watching from inside for a long time. And under the window, a phrase scratched again and again in crooked, desperate writing. "He makes us watch." That's when James screamed. I turned. He was staring at the doorway, the one we came in through. There was someone standing there, not moving, just watching. I couldn't see his face, just a hood. A body. Skinny, wrong proportions, like the limbs were too long. James grabbed my wrist. "Go. Now." We bolted. I don't know how we made it out. I don't even remember the next mile. Just that we ran until the trees opened up into a dry, rocky slope. We stopped when we reached a boulder field. Sat down, heaving. James looked pale. He wasn't talking, just staring at his hands. That's when I saw it. Rope burns, deep ones, around his wrists. "I don't remember this," he whispered. "I don't remember." He started crying. I didn't say anything. I just sat beside him. Because I saw something too. Not far from us, barely visible through the trees, was another tent. Not ours. And from inside it came a sound, like something wet, breathing. There are moments in life where you feel something ancient click on inside you. Not logic, not instinct. Something older, like some deep, primal part of your brain is screaming one thing: don't go near it. But James was already moving toward the tent. "Wait, dude, wait!" I hissed, stumbling after him. He didn't listen, just walked like he was being pulled, his feet dragging a little, shoulders slumped, breathing heavy. "James, stop!" He crouched beside the tent. It was a cheap two-person Coleman, sun-bleached and covered in sap and pine needles like it had been sitting there for years. But that wasn't the worst part. The zipper was open just enough to see inside. It was dark, but I caught a glimpse of something wet. Not water, not mud. Something red. James reached for the zipper. I grabbed his arm. "Don't." He turned and looked at me like I'd just interrupted a dream. Then we both heard it. That laugh again. Closer this time, mocking. High-pitched. Wrong. We turned. Flashlights up. There were shapes. 3 of them. Standing on the far edge of the boulder field. One held something. It was our tent, torn and flapping like a flag. I didn't even think. I grabbed James, screamed, "Run!" and we took off. Again. This time we didn't pick a direction, just away. Down the rocks, into a gully. My foot caught on something and I went down hard. My shin scraped against a rock, ripping open. Blood everywhere. I screamed, tried to stand, and James pulled me up. That's when we heard it. Riley's voice. "Guys?" We froze. "Guys, where are you?" He sounded close, but wrong. Like a recording played back through a broken speaker. Then the voice changed, same tone, same volume, but now it was James's voice. "Over here, bro." Then mine. "Please, help me." It was repeating, all 3 of us, in a loop, coming from all around us. James dropped my arm. I saw him put his hands over his ears and start shaking. Then he ran, gone again. "James, no, wait." I tried to go after him, but my leg wouldn't hold. I collapsed, dragging myself against a tree. That's when I saw him again, that same figure, standing 20 feet away. This time I saw more. He wore a hoodie, dirty, stained, torn at the sleeves. His arms were too long, his legs too thin. His face... No, I can't describe it. Not because I don't remember, but because it didn't make sense. It looked stitched, like someone took different pieces and forced them together. Mouths that didn't line up, eyes in the wrong places, all of them watching. And in his hand, our map, still folded, still in the plastic sleeve. He held it up, like he was offering it, but I knew that if I took a step forward, I wouldn't come back. I reached into my pack, pulled the flare gun, 1 shot left, aimed it at his chest. "Give him back." He didn't move, so I fired. The flare hit his hoodie and burst, red light exploding. He didn't flinch, didn't scream, just stood there, burning. And then he smiled, not with a mouth, with all of them. I ran, dragged my leg until I couldn't feel it, climbed until the air thinned, until I reached another ridge, one we hadn't crossed before. and there on the other side was a fire watch tower, collapsed, old but real. I crawled toward it, sobbing. Inside, the radio was dead, batteries corroded, but there were notebooks, old ranger logs. One entry stood out, scribbled across multiple pages. The hikers never leave. They think they bury it, but it always finds another face, another voice. It's not just watching anymore, it's copying, becoming, one by one, until the story repeats, until they're part of it. There were names listed, dozens, dates going back decades, and at the bottom, James Riley, me handwritten in fresh ink. I couldn't breathe, not because of the thin air, not because of the blood seeping into my sock or the stinging cold climbing my spine. It was something else, something older, a cold that lives under the skin, a suffocating pressure in the chest, like your soul is being squeezed out through your teeth. I stared at those names. James, Riley, me. Fresh ink. Same shaky handwriting as the rest of the ranger logs, but these pages weren't yellowed. They weren't brittle. Whoever wrote this, it wasn't 50 years ago. It wasn't even 5. It was today. I didn't understand. No one had followed us up the ridge. Not that I saw. But if this thing, whatever the hell it was, could copy us, mimic our voices, watch us from inside a cabin we didn't even know existed, then it could have been here the whole time. Could have written the names while we were sleeping. Could have. No. I had to move. I pocketed the notebook and limped to the back of the collapsed watchtower. There was a broken window, frame shattered, glass dusted in old ash and pine needles. I peered out. The ridge sloped downward into another forest, thicker, denser and darker. But beyond that, a clearing, and just past that, the glint of something metal. A truck. I nearly screamed. An old Chevy. Mud-crusted, parked awkwardly on the edge of a dirt road. It looked like it had been there a while, but it was real. Civilization. I scrambled down the tower's skeleton, nearly twisting my ankle again. I didn't care. I made it to the road, practically crawling, until I was pounding on the Chevy's hood. No keys inside. I looked around. The cab was full of junk. Old coffee cups, a cracked iPhone, a rolled-up tarp. I grabbed the phone, dead, and opened the glove box. Inside was a driver's license. Ethan Calder, 34, issued in 2018. I'd never heard the name before, but I recognized the face. It was the man from the Polaroid, the same guy who was in the picture before Riley appeared. Same jacket, same haunted stare. The photo had been a warning. I sat in the dirt and screamed, just screamed, like an animal. Nothing left to hold it in. All the fear and confusion and guilt. Because James and Riley were gone. And somehow I knew they weren't dead. Not yet. But they weren't them anymore. Not really. The laughter started again. Only this time it was coming from behind the truck. I spun around. James was standing there. He looked clean. Too clean. His jacket had no rips. His boots had no mud. His eyes, wide, glassy, like he'd just woken from a coma. "Hey man," he said, smiling. I stepped back. Don't. It's okay. It's all okay now. We found the way out. You're not James. He tilted his head. Come on. You're tired. You're cold. Let's go back. Just for a little bit. They're waiting. Who? He smiled wider. The rest of you. That's when I saw movement in the trees. Riley. Or something shaped like Riley. And behind him, dozens more. People with familiar clothes but wrong faces. Wrong movements. Like they'd learned how to be human by watching, not by being. The James thing extended its hand. You already buried it once. It only came back because you forgot. What did we bury? His smile faded. You. The circle closed in. Footsteps behind me. Laughter in front. A wall of voices, all mimicking mine, overlapping. Whispers and shrieks and murmured pleas. I grabbed the only weapon I had left, a hiking pole, held it out like it would do anything, and then everything stopped. No noise, no movement. The James thing stared past me. I turned. A figure was standing at the edge of the clearing, Ethan Calder. Not the man from the photo, but older, dirt-covered, eyes sunken and wild, holding a rifle. He raised it, fired. One of the mimics went down, not dead, but flailing, screaming in 1,000 voices. Ethan ran up and grabbed me. No time, we run. So we ran, through trees, over rocks, down a ridge. The copies followed, howling now, some on all fours, some upright, all moving too fast, too unnatural. We burst into a narrow ravine and Ethan threw a flare. The whole canyon lit up red. The mimics stopped and retreated, back into the trees. I collapsed. Ethan stood over me, breathing heavy. His eyes were wild, half mad. You found the cabin? He asked. I nodded. You read the logs? I nodded again. He spat into the dirt. Then you know. No, I don't. What the hell are they? He looked at me. They're the lie you told yourself, the part you thought you buried when your friend died. What friend? Ethan leaned down, whispered, the one you left behind. I don't know how long we sat there. The ravine was still, like a pause button had been hit on the world. No wind, no birds, just me and Ethan, soaked in sweat and blood, listening to the echoes of things too broken to be called human. He didn't speak for a long time, just stared at the fire burning out inside his flare canister. Finally, I asked, "What do you mean? The one I left behind?" He didn't look at me. That's how it starts. Always. What does? He took a deep breath. There's something buried out here. Not in the ground. In us. In the people who come here. Buried? What? He turned toward me slowly. His eyes weren't angry. They were tired, like a man who's fought for too long. Memory, he said. Guilt. Stuff we swore we'd forget. Stuff we'd never admit to even ourselves. I didn't answer, but something in my chest started to crawl. A piece of me I hadn't touched in years. Ethan saw it. You ever wonder why your map disappeared? Why your friend had rope burns he didn't remember. Why they started repeating your voices, your faces. I shook my head, but it was weak. I already knew. They don't just hunt, man, he said. They become. They feed on the things we try to erase. The ugly shit. The betrayals. The accidents we turned into stories so we could live with ourselves. And then it hit me. Like a floodgate cracked open and all the rot spilled in. It wasn't a hike with 3 friends, it never was. It was just me and James. Riley had been gone for a long time. Died on a trip 2 years before. This same mountain, same area. We told his parents he fell, that we tried to save him, that we couldn't carry his body out. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was we left him, panicked, trapped during a freak storm. He was pinned under a rock slide and we left him to die. We buried the guilt, told the lie, never spoke of it again. Until now. Until this place made us remember. Or maybe made him come back. I doubled over and vomited in the dirt. My body couldn't hold it in anymore. Ethan just stood there, watching, nodding like he'd seen it 1,000 times before. That's why they come, he whispered. Why they follow. You can't leave what you never really buried. Not in this place. So what now? I asked, voice shaking. I go back? Try to forget again? He looked at me with that dead, hollow gaze. You don't go back, he said. You burn it. We found the old cabin again, or what was left of it. The figures were waiting, a dozen of them now. Familiar shapes, familiar faces. All the versions of Riley I didn't want to see. All the Jameses I wished had never joined me on that hike. They didn't speak, didn't move, just watched. Ethan poured the last of his gas can over the photo wall. The floor, the bedding, everything. He handed me the flare. You start it. I hesitated. My hand shook. I looked at the photo on the wall. The one of us around the fire. Only now it was just me. The others faded, their faces smudged out like someone had wiped them with dirty fingers. I lit the flare. The cabin went up fast. The mimic things shrieked, not in pain, but in anger, in rage. They backed away, arms over their faces, melting into the trees. But one stayed. Riley, or the thing that wore his face. He stood at the edge of the flame, eyes burning, watching me. And then he smiled. Not cruel, not fake, just sad. Like maybe for 1 second the real Riley was still inside. I whispered, I'm sorry. And the fire took him. Ethan left before dawn, didn't say goodbye, just walked into the forest with his rifle and his journal. I never saw him again. I hiked out on my own, found the road eventually, got picked up by a ranger 3 days later, told them I'd gotten lost, injured, nothing more. They didn't ask questions. People disappear out there all the time. I never told anyone the truth. Not really. But now, writing this, maybe I am. Maybe this is the real burial. The thing we buried came back, but maybe, just maybe, this time it stayed dead. I still hear things sometimes. At night. in the woods behind my house. Footsteps, laughter, voices that sound like mine. But I don't go looking. I just sit real still and pretend I don't hear them. Because I've learnt something out there. Some things, when they come back, you don't get to bury them twice.